Welcome to Archery Talk 101 podcast, your guide to better archery skills. We'll bring you the latest tips, tricks, and expert advice, but that's not all. We'll also have interviews with top archers and industry professionals and reviews of the latest gear and equipment and much more. Hi, my name is Rory Canterbury. I'm the host on Archery Talk 101, and we have a kind of a special podcast. This is number 150, which in some of the archery tournaments, that's kind of a perfect score. So we're going to go back and look at a perfect year in the past of what was been going on and where we're going to go in the future. We're going to take a look at um, what's been going on in the main podcast for the audio portion of it is on Spotify. And every year they come out with kind of the highlights of what's going on with your podcast. You can also listen to it on Audible. You can go out there and look for Arch Talk 101, and the podcast is out there, so you can listen to that for free as well. And I'm going to take my glasses off here so they're not glaring in the screen here. But let me go ahead and let's take a look at the year according to Spotify and see what's going on with there. So let's take a look here. They come out with every year. If you're interested in doing a podcast, it's kind of a good place to go. They come out and have a little wrap up what's going on. So it has a little bit here. Here's where let's go through the information that's coming out. People were really feeling what you do. Is kind of what they're saying there. So let's kind of, those are watching this. It's kind of cool color graphics coming up, and I went through this a little bit earlier, but we'll kind of go through here and see what's going on. Now, what they're saying is episode number 2, which is about 2 years ago, were the different types of bows in archery. There I kind of talk about the different bows, being, the long bows, the recurves, the compounds, the crossbows, and then you have all the other types of bows as well. There's some specialty ones that are kind of weird, use the way they look, and they shoot differently. And the Japanese long bows are not evenly in the center, and you draw them way back past your head, and kind of all different ways of shooting. And then you have the bows that you use on horseback, and then there's all kinds of now it's the podcast was streamed 525% more than your average episode. Now it's episode 2, which is amazing. I didn't realize that many people are still watching that one, but they are. So let's see if we can get to the next screen. There we go. It's going kind of weird color graphics. Now we've got a lot of new fans that are listening, and I'd like to thank all the new ones that are coming in and listening. There we go. Let's see, 95 of my listeners discovered me in 2023. So that's a good sign. It's growing, and I try to keep it interesting. Do a lot of interviews and a lot of information, and everybody's always got cool stories. I like hearing them, and I learn a lot from those that I listen to on the podcast. It says episode 4, which is still 2 years ago. What to do when you get to an archery shop. That was one where I talked about when you go to the archery shop, what do you do? What do you look for? How do you know if the person's there actually is going to help you or knows what to do to help you? You've got to, kind of know what you're going in for. There's a few things that you want to know. It's like, okay, what is your dominant eye? And I actually explain how to do the dominant eye. It's fairly quick and easy. What dominant eye you have, so whether you're right or left-handed bow. If you have a physical problem where you can't shoot your dominant eye, you need to know that going in. One of the things you want to know is, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to just shoot for fun in your backyard? You don't care how well you shoot, you just want to shoot. Or do you want to do target, or do you want to do competitions or whatever? That's something you want to know before you get there. And that's some of the things that when you get there, a good shop is going to help you with that. So next thing coming up. Now it's how does it feel to be global? People all over the world are listening to the podcast. And let's see if we can get it to go to the next one. And here's where it's showing we're streamed. Have been streamed in 39 countries. Now, I haven't had that many people on from that many countries, but I've had people on the podcast. I've had archers from several different countries and continents. They're just all over. I can't remember all the places, but I know it's been South Africa. I've had Austria, Germany, of course, United States and Canada. The United States was about 61% of total streams. So that's actually not as big as I thought it would have been, but hey, archers are archers all over the world. That's what I'm finding. As I'm interviewing archers from all over the world, find that it's just really, that's kind of the way archers do it. We're just it's a sport that we all enjoy, and that's what we want to do is listening to other archer stories is really cool. Now most of my listeners, in order: United States first, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, and Germany. That's my top 5 countries that listen to the podcast, which I think is pretty cool. And next screen. There we go. Always have some cool little graphics in. And of course, this next thing here in this overview is your listeners have good taste, obviously, right? And so then they go into what the listeners are also into. This is a kind of a cool overview. I didn't realize, some of this stuff. So now my top listeners of the podcast are sports, comedy, society, and culture. That's the 3 top things that people, of course, sports, what is archery? It's a sport. Now we'll try and get this change screens again. I know how to do it on the phone. It's just not as good as on the computer. The top music is pop and rock, and then contemporary country. I thought it's kind of interesting, the information that they pull out of the listeners. And now then, this is the part I really appreciate. The listeners are sharing it with their friends, and it goes here to tell on, how they're sharing it. There we go. Now, it says my podcast was shared all over. 59% by a text, 20% direct link, 9% on Facebook, 7% other, and 5% on WhatsApp. I'm not using WhatsApp, so that's interesting that it's getting promoted that way. But a lot of text. And the next screen comes up. Now, in fact, the most shared episode was episode 78. Which was quite a while ago, interview with Ohm Hunting. That was a group of guys that got together and just started hunting, and they kind of put a group together, and I got them on the podcast, and we talked to archery for them. And so that was kind of our most shared one. It's always interesting what people listen to and share. What do we have here? Gives my podcast rating a 4.0. I don't have an idea. Is that out of 5? Is that out of 10? It don't give me any information, but it's a decent number. And next one. It says, are you a gardener? Well, yeah, I am. I do a lot of gardening and canning and freeze drying videos on my YouTube channel, which is another place to actually watch the podcast. is on my YouTube channel. It's Learn to Fix It Yourself is the name of the channel, because I kind of go into all kinds of stuff. So I could do multiple channels, but hey, it's enough work just keep one channel going without separating them out. And the next one here is, we saw some nice growth. Streams up 173%, followers 256%, minutes created up 721%, and listeners were up 152%. So that's some really nice growth, and I appreciate all the listeners and watchers doing it. And these are just those that have listened to it on Spotify. If you listen on Audible or you watch the videos on YouTube channel or in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, that doesn't show up here. So I know we have more listeners. And then some of our biggest fans, because there's, you can't forget to give a shout out to all of our listeners, and they're going to go into and talk about a little bit of, get it to change here. There we go. You're a top 10 podcast for 313 fans. So I got 313 people that I'm in their top 10 list. But that is real nice. I enjoy that. That's a nice thing to have happen. Just check and see if our live stream has got anybody doing anything with it here real quick before we get too far. Nope, nobody yet. So let's see if we can get this change again. Top 5 podcasts for 181 fans. So I'm in their top 5 list. And now, it's doing a little drum roll and scrolling around because I don't know what it's doing, just making a dramatic effect. And I'm number 1 podcast for 44 of my fans. So 44 people that listen to me regularly, I'm their number 1 podcast they go to. And I really appreciate you guys that do that. I have fun bringing them. So it's nice that you're enjoying them. 95% of my listeners have joined for the first time this year, which is kind of nice. That I've got a lot of new listeners. And now it's zooming out a little bit bigger picture. And it's just redoing the year. Top 10 and 313, top 5 and 181, and top podcast for 44 of my fans, which is really nice. I really appreciate all that. And it's kind of ending here. Let's see. Speaking of sharing, we made something just for me. And now then here's how I can go ahead and create. For those of you that are doing it, want to do a podcast, when you get done, they actually put together something that you can go through and you just click on it and you can share whatever you want. If you look in the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group, there is actually a post I made out of one of them. I forget which one it was, but you can go through and look at the different things that it puts them for. It creates a post for you. You just click on it and go save it. So that's kind of the nutshell of the review that Spotify did for the podcast. And I don't know why my camera is kind of blurry here. Maybe it's no, I don't know. My camera's all blurry. It's blurry on my screen anyway. So hopefully it's not blurry on yours when you get to watch it. But yeah, that was really interesting. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and take a look at some of my episodes that I've had and some of the different interesting people I've had on the podcast to talk to. It's been really interesting. We've had a lot of business owners, CEOs. We had Mike Gosson on a couple of podcasts ago, No Scent and Trees and Clothing. It was really interesting talking to him about scent elimination and the high-tech clothing that he has. We've talked to Quentin on QAP Outdoors. Um, we had the Dorge from Fire Knock TV. We've had um, Layden from Expedition Bows. Um, we've had Extreme Backcountry Outdoor Adventures TV show. We interviewed Ryan on that one. Uh, Double S Adventures, Sean, we had him on here. We had Justin Hood of Toxin Outdoors. So we've had a lot of interesting ones out here and some really cool stories. Some really interesting, some challenging, some inspirational. And over the time we've had the president of NASH with the National Archery in Schools program. We had Tommy Floyd on. We've had a lot of different people on, and they're just so interesting to talk to. Um, we had Brian from Gray Wolf Archery on here. There's been several different ones in here. We talked to John at Boyd Harnesses. That's something interesting. I never really, you know, I grew up starting off with just a hang on tree stand and then ladder stands and now they've got this saddle that you sit in and just kind of hang off of it. And a lot of them seem to think it's good. I don't know because I haven't used one, but it'd be kind of interesting. You do have a lot of motion that you can do in it, so that might be something good. Maybe someday I'll try that. We've had um, John Walker from he was a Paralympic archer. I had him on and talked to him for a while, and that was interesting. See the challenges they go through, and it's just all kinds of interesting people that I've had on here and talking to them. And that's still not even back very far, just we've done to. We had a guy, Trevor from Triple T Strings, string maker, custom string maker on here. And then of course, I've talked about different things too, what you do when you get to the bow, how to know what type of bow you need. Talked about tree stand safety in one, shot placement, because it's different when you're shooting a 3D target. The spot you're aiming for is not necessarily where you're going to aim when you're shooting at a live animal, because they're going to be different. And then we also talked about how to not be silhouetted. If you're watching the video part of this, you can see over here is the archer standing, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and on the other side you'll see the deer. They're all highlighted, so the chances are that deer is going to see that hunter very easy. Now, if they was switched and the hunter was over here by the trees, hiding in them trees, then of course we wouldn't see him in the picture. It wouldn't be quite a cool picture. But that's something you have to think about. And we went through that on some of the podcasts too. It's like, how do you set up your tree stand? What's the correct way to set it up to climb into it? We went over a couple of times. You always want to put your pegs in, so you're climbing up the side of the tree, and you step down to your tree stand. So you always have two hands and a foot, or at least 3 points of contact on your pegs at all time. You're going to use a rope as you're climbing up. Put it around the tree as you climb it. Go up, move it up, move it up. Once you get up to the top, you're going to put on your lineman's line with the pressing knot on it. So as you're ascending, you just hook to it, just move it up, move it up, move it up, and you get there. And if you slip off the peg, you're going to smack into the tree, but better smack into the tree than smack into the ground, because you get hurt doing that more than just hitting in the tree. So there's a lot of different things and a lot of safety things we get in here. We've had people from Nebraska Game and Parks on here. We had Christy Christensen. She runs a nice outdoor program for women, and there's all kinds of different things that each state's going to have their own game and parks, or Department of Natural Resources, or whatever they call the agency that handles your hunting regulations, as well as your parks and stuff and outdoor events. In Nebraska, I know how to get a hold of somebody that's doing that, but I don't know in the other states. So, just call them up and find out. It's like, hey, you want to get involved in something, get involved with it. If you want to help out in archery, do that. If you want to help volunteer for different stuff, I know in Nebraska, they have the Women of the Outdoors thing where they have different events going on. And last year and the year before, I went through and I volunteered to help them out in the archery part of it. And that's an event where the women go through all kinds of stuff. They'll shoot bows, they'll shoot rifles, they'll shoot shotguns, they'll do cooking stuff, they'll do camping, they'll do canoeing, and so many other things. I don't know what all they do because I kind of mostly focus on the shooting sports of it. So that's a real big thing there, getting something like that. And then, if you're around here, hey, come and join us. And the other thing they do is Missouri Valley Outdoor Expo is every year in the summertime. And I volunteered this last year and a year before, helping out with the archery. And they have hundreds, thousands of people going through, not hundreds of thousands, but they have thousands of people going through that in that whole event, mostly on a weekend. And I think it starts on a Thursday or something, goes through Sunday. And there's a lot of things in there. There's archery in there, there's guns, there's shotguns, there's all kinds of different events. There's tree stand safety, there's fishing, there's camping and cooking, and there's just so many different things. And it's a big whole weekend of stuff. You can spend a whole weekend there, go out and do some camping and stay. Of course, get your reservation in early because they're probably going to fill up at the park. It's at Ponca State Park up there, the north edge of Nebraska on the east end. So there's just been so many different people on here that it's been so cool to talk to. We've had shop owners, we've had brand new archers on here as well. Those are kind of really nice to talk to because they're just starting out. They have lots and lots of questions. And that's why I called the podcast Archer Talk 101, because when you're taking classes in school, like especially in college, you always start off with whatever the course is 101. And then it's the first beginning class, take you from you don't know anything about that subject to getting it started in it. And that's why the podcast is called that, because now we do a lot of interviews with archers with lots and lots of experience, sometimes way more than I have, sometimes less than I have. There's just a lot of information out there. And same thing with the Archer Talk 101 Facebook group. I also have archertalk101.com, which I have information out there as well that you can go out there and look at different things on that. If you need some help with shooting, I do have a coaching program that I can get you connected up with, where it's mostly online through a Zoom call, because not everybody can get to Nebraska, and I don't want to travel around the country, right now anyway. Maybe later I will, but that's something. If you're struggling with something, we've been out here teaching this a long time. I became an archery instructor in '95, so I've been doing it for a while. Taught hundreds of people how to shoot, and it's just a lot of fun doing that. And if you have questions, that's one of the things that we did in the Archer Talk 101 Facebook group is if you're not sure how your shooting is doing, take a video of it and upload the video to the group, and we'll take a look at it and we'll give you pointers. That's one way the group is going to help you. You don't have to work. Nobody's going to sell you anything in the group because we don't allow items to be sold. We do allow posts to archery events because that's something. That's what the group is about, as helping out archers. And if there's an event, we want to know about it, no matter where it's at. And that's just one of the things that we're working on, getting everything to help the new archer out, the brand new one that's never shot before, the one that's just barely shooting, the especially in the beginner stage. Then you get a little bit more advanced, intermediate, and advanced, and semi-pro, pro, and Olympic archer. Everybody needs somebody to help with stuff, whether it's I'm struggling with this one little thing, and I've had some where I've looked at the video and it's like, let's see, one little tweak, that's like everything looks really good except maybe one little bitty thing, and that one little thing can make it go from doing a 1-inch group to 1/4-inch group. One little thing can do that. And, not everybody's going to do that because it takes a lot of practice, and you got to practice correctly is one of the things that you need to make sure that you find somebody that's going to help you, that you like the way they teach, because that's going to be a big difference on how well you advance. And one of the things you don't want to do is talk to one archer. It's like, okay, we'll do this. The next one says, do this. Everybody says, do something different. You're never going to get any better. I know my son went through that when he was shooting trap. He started out better than he was after shooting for almost a year because everybody had their own way of doing it. And everybody was trying to teach him something different. So each time they went, they had a different coach working with them. So you might have 5 or 6 different guys. Each one's telling them to do something different. And then that's not working because the next time they're telling them to do something different. So that's what you want to avoid if you're getting somebody is take a look at, do you understand what they're teaching you? If you don't understand, can they explain it to you? And that's one of the things that I've done over many years is, you teach something, they don't understand it, and take another route, go a little differently. And, I teach, when I'm teaching, I teach the way I do it, the way I learned it, modified for what works best for me. I'm going to teach you that method. Then we're going to modify it to fit you because it may not work for you exactly the way I teach it. And we're going to find what works best for you. So that's what you need to look for in a coach. And, we go through a lot of the tips on here. One of the things that I've got in the Facebook group and as well as the website, archerytalk101.com, is I do have some information on how to work on your bows. I've got a whole series on making strings, of which I've got a friend of mine. He wanted to learn how to make the string the way I made it, kind of a special one. It's kind of more of a braided instead of a twisted string. And so coming up, watch for that because I'll be making one of those here pretty soon to show how to do that. It does take more string. You have to make them slightly longer because you're going to lose some length in it. But I'll go with that. I'm not going to talk about how to do that right now because I got a video coming out for that here pretty soon. But it's just all a lot of good information that we're trying to get out. Every archer has their own way of doing stuff, and sometimes I'll go through and I will look at what somebody's doing different than me, and if it makes sense, then I will go ahead and change if it makes sense, and it looks like it's going to work. It's a little better than what I'm doing, then we're going to modify it. I'm not so set in the ways that I can't change what I'm doing. But that's one of the things that you always got to be open-minded for. Now, the other part of this is, where do you want to take this next year? We're coming up on 2024, and 2023 has been, really good year. We've had a lot of nice interviews, and where do we want to go next year? Leave a comment in the group, where you'd like to see it go. So let's just, me comment, what do you want to see? Do you want to see more interviews? You want to see more interviews with archers? You want to see more businesses that have archery related products that, we can talk about that. Right now, we're just going to go with whatever wants to talk. We're going to go with those subjects, and if there's something specific you want to learn, we can reach out to those people that have the interests. We can reach out to more professional archers. We can reach out to Olympic archers. We can reach out to those that basically are just starting out. Those are really, really interesting stories, and you may not think you have a story. Like I've had some like, well, no, I really don't know too much about archery. It's like perfect. That's who I want to get on here. You're going to have questions, and like other things, when you learn them, you don't know what questions to ask because you don't know what you don't know yet. And as you learn, you're going to get a little bit more, and it's like, oh, now then you have a good question. So that's it's I'm just kind of almost rambling now, but it's been so much fun. I really appreciate all the listeners in here and all the feedback. It's been great. I enjoy doing this, and I plan on keep doing this for quite a while. As long as I can still record podcasts, I'm going to still keep recording them. Right now, they come out on Monday mornings and Friday mornings at 6 o'clock my time, which is Central Time. So I don't know what time in yours, because your time zones be a little different, but they come out 6 a.m. Every Monday and Friday. Now, obviously, I don't record them at 6 o'clock in the morning. They are pre-recorded so that I can record them at the convenience of whoever's, the guest on the show. That's the main thing. We do schedule them for an hour. They don't normally last an hour. Once in a while, they'll go less than an hour. Some will go right about an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes they'll go 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It just depends on, how we're going and what's going on, and whether or not one of us has, a hard stop where we have to go ahead and stop. But I really appreciate all of you that are listening to the podcast as well as watching the videos. And I enjoy them, and it's just one of those things that is fun to do. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, hey, shoot me a comment, say you'd like to be a guest. The only requirement is we start talking about archery. And if you've listened to any of the podcast, sometimes that's how we start, but we don't finish in archery. There's been times when we get off on other tangents, other subjects, and that's all right. We start talking about archery, and the rest is just getting to know each other, telling stories. After all, we all like to tell stories and hear stories. Sometimes we're teaching stuff in here, the things that we've done, that we've learned, we're passing on. Whether it's something I've done, I've learned, I'm passing on, or whether my guest has learned, passed on. It's all about sharing information, and that's what we want to do, and that's what plan on keep on doing that. And if you have any comments or suggestions, go ahead and get a hold of me. I'm not hard to get a hold of. You can reach me on Facebook. You can reach me on my website. I think you can contact me there. That's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but that you can do it that way, or on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Learn to Fix It Yourself, because not only do I have archery podcast I put out there, I have a section just for the podcast, but I also have other things I'm doing out there. As I'm working on stuff around the house, as I'm working on the cars, I'm recording that, and learn so that you can learn how to do it yourself. Sometimes I'll go through stuff and I'm not doing it right, and I figure it out. And you know what? If it saves you from going through the struggle, great. That's that's what we're doing here. So we're just going out and creating content with whatever I want to do. It's whatever I'm working on, I record it. So it could be welding projects where I'm welding. I was welding up a trailer, doing some repairs on a trailer. I was working on a car, fixing rust on, panels on the car. Doing maintenance. I've got a great big video series that is in the process of coming out, not done yet, on working on a truck. We got a truck, thought we needed just brakes. Yeah, no, it needed, brakes, hubs, it needed tie rod ends, it needed brake lines, it needed shocks. It needs new cam and rotor for electronics. It needs a new water pump. Now, as we discovered, the water pump leaks, and not super bad, but we're going through all that, and then we haven't got the body work on the truck yet. So we go through all kinds of stuff, and of course I kind of sidetrack a little bit from archery, but that's sometimes how the podcasts go. We start archery and then go into whatever. So just enjoy, and let's talk about what we want to do. Like I said, if you have any suggestions on what you want to hear on the podcast, let me know, because we'll go over it and we'll do what we can to make that happen. And I'd like to thank everybody for um, watching or listening to the podcast. And it's been great being able to put out these for the last couple years. Uh, it's been a lot of fun. And my name is Roy Canterbury, and I'm host today on Arch Talk 101. And this is podcast number 150. So stay tuned for 151. They'll be coming out. Well, this is Thursday. This one comes out tomorrow. And next Monday would be 151. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.